Hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, we've got some more show updates. Well, as quite a few of you know, here on the show, about every 6 months-ish, I like to put out an update show. And what it involves is, once in a while, you see those shows on YouTube and they show you how they make this or they do that or they review this or they review that. And you have a thought in your mind, like, how did that ever work out? What was the longevity of that project? Did it ever stay as good as what they said it did and as good as it was the day that they filmed it? And that's what I try to alleviate on this segment of my channel. So without further ado, let's get into the updates. Well, this first update actually came from a viewer, and it's about our Perpetual wall calendar that I made. Now, don't get me wrong, this project is still spectacular and I still love it. And it is mounted directly in front of my desk and I use this thing almost daily. With scheduling of the show and that sort of thing, it's very handy for me to look up at that calendar and say, yes, it's scheduled for this date or on that date, or what day is this Tuesday, or what day does this Friday show fall on, however. In the original build, it was just the months and the numbers, and there was nothing up there to tell me what day of the week it was. So there was no quick reference point for me to say, okay, the 3rd is a Tuesday, or the 8th is a Friday, or what have you. So what I ended up doing was using a fairly simple font. I went back onto the Cricut machine and I cut vinyl and adhered it to the project for the days of the week. Just something simple, just the first letter of each one. And I know now at a quick glance that I can look up and see the days as well as the date. For some of you that may not be that important, but for me and the way I use it and for scheduling of the show and whatever, the way that the calendar works for me, it was not working without those days of the week. But you can see here that by adding them, it didn't take anything away from the project. In fact, it enhanced it. So there you go. Update number 1, I've added days of the week to the calendar, and I think it was a huge improvement on the project. Alright, so back on July 31st of 2020, I aired on the show this little project. And what this was the Apple Watch charging station. I made it from a block of maple and of course drilled out the center for the charging disc and carved out the back so that the cord, etc., etc. And I put a finish of oil on it, and it sat on my nightstand in my bedroom for the longest time, and at night I would strap my watch to it and it would charge overnight for me. And how did the project work out? What was the longevity of it? Was it worth it? Did it really work? You know what? I think it would have worked, but honestly, to be 100% transparent and honest here on the show, this thing became firewood. And the reason for it is that there was intermittent charging. Because the cord comes out the bottom, dead center of the disc that charges it, the way that I cut the grooves and the way that I made the project, it did not allow for the cord to bend in such a way and allow for that charging disc to be protruding just enough so that it constantly contacted the watch. And unless you had it positioned just right, and I found this out, a couple weeks after, I guess for the first couple of weeks, I was hitting it bang on and getting that watch centered on the disc. But over time, it seemed that, I would put it on there and I'd wake up in the morning and it wasn't charged. In fact, it was almost dead. So unless it was perfectly aligned, it wasn't charging all the time. And the wood was what caused it not to charge. I'm not sure if it was the sharp angles around the outside of the actual project where it caused the strap to bend in such a way that it pushed the back away from the charger. I don't know. I mean, it is magnetic, but it's not a strong magnet. So I'm not sure exactly what it was that caused this project to fail, but I'm pretty sure that it had to do with the fact that the disc for charging was not proud enough of the actual wood surface. And because of the position of the cord and the lack of material there to work with, because if I brought it forward anymore, I was going to lose the front face of the maple. Because of various, because of various conditions, the project failed. Essentially, the project failed. That's all there is to it. The way that this project would have been a complete success is if it would have charged 100% all the time perfectly. The fact that it was intermittent and that it would charge for a week and a half and then 2 or 3 nights it wouldn't, or, that sort of thing. In order for something to be a success, it has to be a success all the time as far as I'm concerned. And this was not an all-the-time thing, so it ended up as firewood. That doesn't mean that the concept of the project is trash, and I may look back into it again later on in the show and try to redesign it. What it does mean is that my design that I tried in the first case just didn't work, that's all. So if you were considering this, you may want to consider revamping that design, or wait until I update the show again and do a new build on it. We'll see how it goes. Well, it was back on July 28th of 2020 that I aired this little thing. This is a magnetic charging cord holder. It was meant to have a little metal ring on your charging cords, and it could hold it on the top. And this, because it's so heavy, there's lead in the base of this, and because it's so heavy, it wouldn't go anywhere. It would sit there and hold your charging cords, and you could just pull them off, charge your unit, and it could stick back onto there. And it was all great and fine, and the final product worked out great. But honestly, here we go. I hate to say it, it's another failure of a project where, as a charging cord holder, it honestly did not work. And as much as I tried to use it and tried to give it a good honest go, it just did nothing for me. And if anything, it was a little more awkward for me than anything. But I did find an absolutely amazing use for it, and it works great for it. And that's a paperclip holder. It sits on my desk and it holds paper clips. And the magnets that are inside, the rare earth magnets that were the bar type magnets, if you remember, they really hold these well. And it sits there, it's weighted so it doesn't move. And anytime that I need a paper clip on my desk, it's only a matter of reach out and take one from the pile kind of thing. As far as a charging cord holder, it kind of failed for me in that aspect. So that aspect of the project was a no-go. But this is amazing, and I've actually had it on my show, or my list of show ideas, for a while to make a paperclip holder, and I still am going to do that. But for now, I have this one, and as a paperclip holder, it works just great. As a charging cord holder, not so much. So while we're sitting here at the bench, of course, we'll move on to our next update. And back on October 20th of 2020, I started a 6-part series, which was, of course, on making a ship in a bottle. So what's the update on this? I've made another ship in a bottle, and it never got placed on the show as a build. It never got placed on the show as anything else, because sometimes, I just want to make something just for me. And I want to show it to you here. This is the ship in a bottle that I made. And I'll give you a few close-ups of this. This one here is the tiniest little ship in a bottle. It still has all the ocean done with the silicone and the resin and all of that, like what I did with the other. The difference is this one is a galleon. It got built in 2 different pieces and placed into this bottle. It sits in there and it is absolutely beautiful. I absolutely love this little project. It was a heck of a job to squeeze it in there and get it installed, but I managed to get it in there. It has 3 masts with 3 sails. All of them collapse just like the larger one that I did does. And I just love this little thing. So I just wanted to point out that, you know what, you don't have to go a larger scale for a ship in a bottle. You can do the smaller scale like what I've done here. And honestly, they're just amazing. They're a load of fun. This one took quite a while to do because of its small scale, but I enjoyed every single second of it. This one was so tight. I don't know if you can see it, but right here, the mast actually rubbed on the top of the bottle. And that mast is actually touching the interior of the bottle, and some of the white paint kind of left some residue there on the top of the glass. But you know what, I'm okay with that. It's just part of learning and part of the build. This thing here is a lot of fun, a real conversation piece when people see it sitting on the shelf in my office, and it's really cool. So basically, give this a try, guys. There's the update, is that I'm not done with these ships in a bottle. I do have a third one in the works that I am planning at the moment that will make it to the show. You will hopefully see that this year and at some point in time. But for now, don't stop trying out making these ships in a bottle. This one is no great feat of engineering as far as detail. It's very rustic, but it's very cool. Well, on December 4th of 2020, I brought you another build series on how to make a garden lighthouse. And this thing stands about yay tall, and I used solar lights to illuminate it, and the whole 9 yards. It was a wonderful series, a fun build, except for the painting. I hate painting, I really do. But anyway, it doesn't matter what I hate. I still like the project, and I love the way that it came out, and I still love it to this day. No complaints about it. So what's the update? The update is, much like the ship in a bottle, I built a second one. And much like the ship in a bottle, I built it much smaller. Okay, check this out. Exactly half scale for everything that I gave you on the show. This is exactly half the size, and it sits in the backyard just by the entrance to my shop, and it actually lights up around the pathway there. The light that I bought, if you remember, I bought a set of lights for like 19 bucks. There were 6 of them in the set, and on the larger lighthouse, I made kind of like a housing with dowels around it to fur it out a little bit because it looked a little small for the lighthouse. But check this out. They are the perfect size for this half-sized one. I painted the cage of the thing white and the top red, as you can see, and it really comes together with the whole, it's just gorgeous. Instead of doing the square posts here for the fence rails around, I just used dowels, and it worked out beautifully. They were able to sink in there. Now the little size here, or the smaller size of the lighthouse, I really didn't want to cut windows. The way I did on the other ones is I had like a 1/4 inch thick or 3/16 thick material, and I physically cut window frames at a little window ledge there, angled so that the water would run off of it. I didn't want to do that with this one because I think that the wood would have been way too thin by the time I proportioned it down. If you do a half scale, it would have been 3/32 of an inch thick. Once the sun and the heat starts hitting that and the humidity, that is going to twist completely out of shape. So let me show you what I did. Well, I'm getting more and more uses out of this machine. That is my wife's. But these windows were cut on the Cricut cutter, the Explorer Air 2. I basically cut a black square. You can specify the size on the Cricut cutter. And then I was able to cut out the red window frame, stick them together onto adhesive vinyl, and then this becomes a great big sticker. They have lasted weather, rain, heat, humidity. they are still stuck on there, and I did the 3 of them, the top, the middle, and the lower, just like I did on the large version. And even the door was done with adhesive vinyl. So it's a great way to add accents to your project. So the bottom line here is that if you saw that Lighthouse build and you thought, wow, that's really nice, but way too big for my liking, the exact same lights, the exact same link I gave you for the lights works absolutely beautifully for half scale. Exactly half of what I showed you. A lot less material, made of 1/2-inch ply instead of 3/4, but all the dimensions are half. So you get this gorgeous little 3-foot high lighthouse, and it just gives a beautiful light around the pathway of the shop. So there you go. I like the project so much, I made a second one. And there you have it. 5 show updates. Guys, there are more to come on these show updates, but it was one of those things I'm borderline here. If I give you the last 5 that I have, the show runs way too long. If I hold back and just give you 5, well then we're into a second update show. And I don't know about you, but I'm okay with that. So I'm going to give you another show next Tuesday with 5 more updates from the program. Honestly, these projects all have their purpose. Whether they failed, kind of, let's just call them fails, whether they failed like the magnetic charging cord holder and the Apple Watch charger, or whether they were such a success that I made a second one, just changed it up a bit, like the ship in a bottle and the Lighthouse. It doesn't matter, fail or win or modified like our calendar, it makes no difference. Every single project on here has its purpose. And it made it on the show because I thought it was a worthwhile project. Just because the way that I did it failed doesn't mean it's not worthwhile. It just means it needs to be tweaked or modified, or maybe it's me. Maybe it's just the way that I used it that screwed it up. Either way, every show that I do here has a purpose, and everyone has certain skill builders that you can use. And even if it doesn't work out, I mean, you still built your skills up. Look at the calendar. What skill did that build? Well, honestly, it takes a little bit of practice to navigate around the Cricut app to use the machine. So that extra practice to make those letters really went well when I had to do something like the Lighthouse windows, being able to shape and size things and get them to fit exactly right. Building the smaller Lighthouse, well, I had to come up with different ways to do things. That little door at the back wasn't big enough to put hinges and a tumbler lock. I had to come up with another way. So I ended up with a brace across the sides, and it basically screws in and sandwiches it together against the walls. But you can figure out that on your own. That's what it's all about. It's all about modification and learning as you go. And I'm telling you, don't think that because I'm the guy that's been putting this show out and I've been doing woodworking for over 40 years, don't think that I'm some know-it-all, because I'm not. I screw up with the best of them, and honestly, I just embrace it and own it because, hey, the world loves to screw up too, right? Guys, these updates are a lot of fun. If you have something that you have seen on my show and you're questioning, hey Kenny, that jig you showed, do you still like it? Or that project that you made, is it still around? Did it ever last? Or that toy you made for your granddaughter, did she break it in 5 seconds? That sort of thing. If you have a question, drop it below. And it may not be tomorrow, it may not be the next week, it may not be the next update, but it will show up here on the show during the update segment, because that's the whole purpose. The purpose of this segment is to answer your questions and what you think might, you know, what happened with this project. You kind of left me hanging there. So I'm here to answer it. You got a question? Drop it below. If you haven't already, guys, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the bell and then you won't miss the notifications of the future episodes of the show and the future updates. We have a lot of fun here, guys, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I honestly hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another Alternative Tuesday and another update list. See you next week.